Let me partner with you as you walk through this next chapter of your life. Let us unpack the blocks, the blind spots together and get to the next level, your divine purpose in this season. Let's help you shed the weight that distracts from you living in fulfillment. Meet me in my healing space. Confirm with me today. Thank you for joining us tonight. We would love to have you partner with us as we partner with Purpose Youth Foundation for their annual educational mission trip. Please email us at info@coinpm.org and learn how you can be a part of this magnificent journey of supporting and assisting those that are less fortunate. Thank you again, and we look forward to being a blessing in 2026 for the educational mission trip. If you would also like to learn how to sponsor a student, make sure you connect with us. Greetings, everyone. How are you doing this evening? We do hope that you enjoy tonight's live pre-recorded program that we have scheduled for you. Of course, we're going to give a few moments and allow those the opportunity to come in. We know it's Juneteenth, and so a lot of people are out celebrating the official acknowledgement of Texas in 1865, that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Abraham Lincoln January 1st, 1863. And so it was Texas, the last of the states to acknowledge the emancipation of slavery. That does not mean that it was all over, as you all know, that there still was an uphill battle to climb. But at least at June 19th, 1865, in Texas, Galveston, I believe, is where the first celebration kicked off, Galveston, Texas, acknowledging that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed January 1st, 1863, 2 years earlier. And so today we stand in freedom, acknowledging our ancestors, giving homage to those that have gone before us. That reminds us that we are cause in the matter. We don't have to give up. They survived so that we can live. Yeah, how about that? So I'm going to ask that you take a little deep breath with me in this moment. Take a deep inhale and exhale. Another inhale through the nose and hold 2, 3, 4, and exhale through the mouth. It is that breath that reminds us whose and whom's we are. It lets us know that we are not no junk, that we are divinely created to create divinely, that we are in this dispensation, this time of life, of how the world has been designed for us to come forth and move forward in this season. Take another deep inhale. You are causing the matter. Hold. And on the count of 4, you're going to exhale through the mouth. 2, 3, 4. You are cause in the matter. Don't forget whose and whom's you are. Listen, this month is men's mental health month. And so we have a special edition tonight where we've been had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. J, and we had a very dynamic, engaging conversation. You've seen some of the clips out there on social media. And so we're going to dive right in. We want you to make sure you pause, subscribe, like, breathe, pause, subscribe, and like, because that's how our algorithm, how we get into the algorithm. And so those that don't know about us get to learn about us. All righty. I want to thank you again for joining in tonight. No, I'm not on camera because I want to make sure that all your attention is on the pre-recording that we have tonight. All righty. Tell your friends, tell your loved ones that Iris Inspires TV, we have some dynamic conversation that offers you the opportunity to look at self, inquire, and engage in powerful conversation. With that said, we're going to go ahead and jump right in, and here we go. Our discussion, and we're going to go ahead and bring to the stage Dr. J. I don't get a chance to mess up the name. How about that? Dr. J. Pearcey. Let me give you a little bit about him. He is a doctor of psychology with a focus in psychopsychology and a professor at Saybrook University, my alma mater. That's how I met him, but y'all. And he has a continuing training from Cornell and Stanford as CEO of Cosma Thought Technology. I think I said that correctly. He consults on stress science, cognitive performance, and reliance interventions, drawing from experience across 45 countries and fluency in 3 languages. His passion lies in cultivating empathy as a performance asset and a human imperative. I love it. He's the father of, he's fathering and the father of 3 children. He also is at the National Sports Association for Wellness and Mental Fitness, which is the NSAWMF. And Dr. J leads the strategy to support athlete performance, emotional regulation, identity development, and sustainable confidence. Let's welcome to the stage, Dr. J. Hey.
Hey, nice to be here.
Yeah, welcome and thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation. We appreciate that you took time out of your busy schedule. You guys, he is in Houston. I didn't mention Houston, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's out of Houston. And so we thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're busy, and I appreciate. I've been trying to connect with you on here for a minute now, so I'm excited about this. I think we're going to have a dynamic conversation. You guys don't forget to subscribe and like, and share it with as many people as you can to check this out and join in the conversation. So, Dr. J, let me ask you this. I was looking at and reading your dossier, your mini bio. So I know it's a lot more intense than this. But why psychopsychology?
Psychophysiology?
I did say that. That's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how.
I have a lot of fun. I told you that.
Hey, it should all be about fun. So how did I get into psychophysiology? Well, it's a really long explanation, I feel, because I feel like the origins actually began in my childhood. But I would say more recently that I could explain would be through my military service. I served in the U.S. Air Force for 13 years. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom to Afghanistan. And that really led me on a very specific journey, because after I got out of active duty service and went into the reserves, I started to really contemplate my service, the things that happened, the things that my friends had gone through, and what I had seen of them, the things that they were struggling with after service, and the things that I was struggling with. And a lot of that really aligned. And so it led me to start to question who I was. And that sent me on a trip through Europe, where I backpacked Europe for 6 months, and really just, I sold everything that I owned to do this trip. And that gave me a lot of insight, and it led me to a very specific part of psychology, where mystical experiences happen. And mystical experience is just a term that we can use for an experience that's weird. It's not a normal experience. You may have felt one with the universe. You may have felt that God spoke to you. There are a number of different characteristics that mystical experience has. And that happened to me on this trip. And so that led me ultimately to Saybrook to try to understand this experience, understand how I was changing, and I think more importantly, understand how I could change to produce less stress in my life. And that ultimately landed me in psychophysiology. where it is the blend of physiology and psychology, how your mind and body interact together to create experience.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that walked us. That's perfect explanation because I was going to ask you, of course, what is psycho physiology, and so that walks us right into the topic for today. This month is Men Mental Health Awareness, and you kind of touched on it in explaining how you got into your field of study and profession. What would you say to the topic of men mental health?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a difficult topic. Although it's come to my awareness that it's a less difficult topic, I think, for younger generations, but definitely for my generation and older.
You're not that old. Cut it out.
Hey, black don't crack.
That part.
But it's more of the way in which we were raised, which was really don't show emotion. And over time, what that really translates to is don't understand yourself. In fact, suppress yourself, suppress what you're feeling so that you can fit in with these other men. And sure, that sounds nice on, when you take it for face value, but as you get deeper into it, or as you get deeper into your own life, you start to realize that maybe knowing more about yourself and how you respond to different events, what makes you feel emotional, what makes you feel sad, all of those kinds of things come to a head. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing now in society is it's this realization of how important emotions are, but also the suppression still of emotions. And I do think we're getting out of it, but for mental health, that is one of the most important things. If you don't know what you're feeling, how are you supposed to get any help for that? If you don't know exactly what you're feeling, you just know that you get angry all the time and you don't know why you're angry all the time, that's a problem. It's the same kind of problem as if you feel sad all the time. And so we have to come to terms with this concept of what we've done, I think, to young boys that have been translated to men, where we force them to suppress their emotions and what that actually does to them biologically, but also what it does to societally, because the ramifications of men not feeling their emotions mean that they don't feel that they need to listen to those emotions. And so they can step on people's toes, they can do what they want, they can respond in anger, even though anger may not be the most appropriate emotion, and many other scenarios where that can play out. But that's just a little of my perspective on this issue and where we're at with it. But I do think that we're in a good place as far as being able to discuss these things and actually have some resolutions that help people.
Awesome. I love it. So how have you, I know you said you packed up everything, sold everything, went on a journey, found yourself, came back, did studies.
Yeah.
How have you, including that and outside of that, been able to make that peace in a world that is non-acceptant of Black males, men of color, men that show their emotions? How have you been able to do that?
That is a great question. I think for me, it's come in a number of waves, I would say, of just waves of understanding. The first came actually with one of my first therapists when I was in my late 20s that really raised my awareness to the fact that I didn't understand what I was feeling. And it came through a bunch of questions where she would ask me something and how it made me feel. And instead of describing a word or using a word to describe how I was feeling, I would give an example of a pattern. Well, this happened and this happened and this happened, and therefore I'm upset. And then she would again repeat, well, what do you feel? Well, this happened, this happened, this happened, and now I'm upset. But never being able to get to the actual origin of why I felt upset. And so that realization, when she finally got me to realize that I didn't know what I was describing, it finally allowed me to go, okay, well, what am I feeling? And that was important. And this really, it's not uncommon for men to be alexithymic. Alexithymia is a condition characterized by a lack of understanding of one's own emotions. So once I had that diagnosis, I was able to start to go, okay, well, how can I start to understand my emotions? So I think that was like one distinct phase. I think two was during the civil rights movement in 2020, actually, because through that movement, I was inspired to do something, after George Floyd's death. And so that resulted in me doing I call it a journey through Black History Month. And really, it's me doing guided meditations, or what I say is a guided story, because it's not really for a meditational purpose, but it is in that format where you are relaxed and then I just tell you a story. And that started to help me understand maybe the role of my ancestors and even my own ability to sit here before you. I mean, just us having a talk, a talk that can go worldwide, potentially, right? Anybody can listen to it. That would have never happened even, I mean, we're talking like 60, 70 years ago. It would have been suppressed to some degree, right? So it really started to give me this understanding of what my ancestors had gone through and gratitude for their sacrifices to allow me this space and time to say these things. And so that led to some other realizations about myself and more of a exploration of my African ancestry and what that entailed. And then I would say more recently, it began with spirituality and really starting to understand what I believed, why I believed it, and what I really wanted to leave on this world. Because I think we all have the capacity to impact people around us. I mean, whether or not we want to, we do. And so I started to become purposeful with how I wanted to impact people and how I wanted to impact the world. And that really started the shift that I'm on still today. So I know that's kind of a long.
It was good though. I'm loving it. I'm loving it because you're hitting on all the points, which is really, really good. Spirituality, making that understanding one's roots, understanding one's ancestry, and being triggered by the 2020 civil rights around George Floyd. And when we think about where we are even still yet today, in our world, what's going on as it pertains to African Americans, as it pertains to people of color. We call them brown skin, yellow skin, red skin, which, that's a whole nother subject. But when we think about that, we are still faced with that challenge. So with that said, let me ask you this. As a man in this field, and just as a man, period, as a man that's an African American man, I've been reading a lot of things about men and how you all express your pain when you feel disrespected, what you call that, and things of that nature, right? And we talked about how we've been conditioned, because I personally think it's not just men that's been conditioned to suppress, it's just women. It's just women. We are a little more, you got the other end of it. We're a little more expected to, but the truth of the matter is, what happens is, for a woman, I believe in a lot of instances, we hold it in, and then we explode. And so, it's like, what's wrong with her? And so what I would like to ask you is, how have you been, what do you, how do I want to word this? What would you say to a man right now that's navigating and pulling back and unpacking his pain?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that first, I think you have to really want to change, right? Because it's not enough to just be aware. You can be aware of a lot of things and have no impact on those things changing. So it's being aware of what you're going through, but then understanding what you want to do with it. Like, so if you are unpacking these things and you're feeling, let's say, upset by the years before where you suppressed so much of yourself, it's going, okay, well, I can't change the past, right? The past already happened, done deal. So what do I want to do for the future? And I think it's putting like a pin in that thing of, I don't know, I want to spread love and positivity, right? That's what I want to do. That's what I decided on doing. And so that for me is an easy barometer for myself, because I do think that setting goals can be problematic, because if you don't achieve that goal, then you get down on yourself, or you're like, I'm far behind my goal. You know, I thought I was going to do this in 5 years and now it's 6 years, you know, whatever it is, you create the conditions for success or failure. And that can be good if you are succeeding, but it can be bad if you are failing. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's, for me, learning to set conditions that cannot be completed. Right. There's no completion of spreading love and positivity. Like, I can't complete that work. I can only just do it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that would be the most important thing, is as you're coming out of this, what can you set for yourself to keep you on that path that won't make you go, okay, this is stupid, I'm done, I tried this for a month, right? Instead, understanding that it's a journey, and that journey is just you doing the same thing every day, trying to get better at it.
So when your past is connected to people that you love, how do you put a pin in it when they're still reminding you, yeah, I trusted that pin in it before and it got us back here?
Yeah, well, when you are working with other people, then you have only one choice, and that is communication, right? And so I think part of just the issues in society in general are really tied to communication. And I think some of it even purposefully tied to communication. And I'll use this example to kind of convey how difficult communication is. And let's just start with the word love. All right, we all know this word. If you speak English, you know this word. And maybe even if you don't speak English. But let's look at love. All right, I can love pizza. I can love going on backpacking trips. I can love exploring, adventuring. I can love meeting new people. I can love my kids. I can love doing podcasts like this. You know, I can love teaching at Saybrook. I can love my family. I can love my partner. Now, do my kids know the difference between my love for pizza and my love for them? And if so, how do they know that? How do they know that my love for pizza is different than my love for them? Or am I making that clear enough? Right? Now take that back to, let's say, a marriage. Because I think, and this is a problem, I think, with just labels in general, but especially marriage, I think that is a big one, because what does marriage mean to you? You know, I tend to hear things like, well, when you're married, you do this. Do you though? You know, in your mind, yeah, that may be exactly what you do. But in the other person's mind, do they know that that's what you're
thinking? Yes.
Yeah, right. You have to get on the same page. And I think, you know, to the earlier point of, you know, how you can convey this to your partner or somebody else that keeps bringing it up, you have to be able to communicate clearly and effectively. This is what I mean when I say this, right? And you can't change what happened in the past. And if you have done this multiple times of, you know, I'm changing, then you go back, I'm changing, then I go back, you know, then it's going to be increasingly difficult. But how you communicate that will be the most significant factor in whether that succeeds or not. Awesome. So I think it's just being more in tune with your communication. What are you trying to say to somebody else? And don't text it. Just texting, you lose so much in text. You don't get the face, you don't get the tone, you don't get the body language. You just get this one line. Okay. right? And okay can mean, okay, great. It can mean, okay, that's disappointing, or it can mean, okay, that's stupid, right? You can just say okay, and it can
Oh, right.
be interpreted a million different ways.
Yes,
So
yes.
complicated conversations require in person.
Mhm. Love it, love it. It's funny that you brought up the relationship because we have an area here where we talk about marriage gone divorce, and one of the major things that's come up is around communication. And it's so amazing how I'm thinking, or how one person can think they communicating one thing, but the other person hears something completely different than
Yeah,
what you thought you were saying, right? And
yeah,
so that's so important, and being clear with who you are. Um, your purpose, you hit on so many, your purpose. I hear often, even when I talk to men that are in search of their purpose, in search of defining, even women for that matter, their purpose,
mm,
especially when you start intertwining it in relationships. They say we seem to kind of get lost in that, if we haven't clearly been able to identify what is my purpose. Is it mom? Is it wife? Is it sister? Is it mother? Is it writing a book? Is it showing up for others? Is it a healer? Is it this? What is my purpose? How did you discover yours?
well, I think that's I think that's a much more nuanced conversation, because I have qualms with the word purpose, because in trying to find a purpose, you also, again, you're setting a goal. Like, what is
Mm,
my purpose? And then if you don't find your purpose, is this life purposeless then? Right? Or
that's
meaningless,
good. That's
right?
good.
And
Mm,
so I don't know if that is the best way to frame it, because I don't think that life is here for us to find purpose. Like, I know that is, especially, growing up in this country, something that we are given, and predominantly in religions, right? Religions all across the world give you, or at least make statements to, there is a purpose to this life.
mhm.
I would say that if there were a purpose, like, let's say God, right, creating everyone, the purpose would be to enjoy, right?
Mm,
That's what I want for my kids.
right.
I want them to be able to enjoy life. And so I do things to try to help them enjoy life better, to teach them different things about life, to take them places and try to do things with them so that they can enjoy life. And I think that so often we make it so complex, when really we should just be enjoying life. And if we enjoyed life, everything else would be a lot easier. But that's,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of,
it's funny you say that because I'm totally with you with how we define the words that we use, have meanings that sometimes are triggers, right?
oh
Like
yeah.
good and bad.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
often will say I try not to use good and bad because good and bad usually is associated with something negative, or I done wrong, or I never lived up to a certain expectation, versus healthy and unhealthy, right? And purpose, I never actually, you made some valid points when it's attached to a goal, because I believe I would agree with you when it's consistently attached to a goal, right, of attaining something, an ongoing attainment that you never can attain. There's like, this is
Yeah.
never ending. I recently got present to, I was in a session. You tell me what you think about this. Was in a session, an interview session, and someone asked me, so you've done a lot of educational pursuits and you've accomplished a lot. Do you feel like you've been able to apply all that you've learned? I literally went like this. I was like, well, that's a good question. Do I need another certification? No.
Yeah, yeah, right. Do you?
Okay, really?
Yeah. So where does
um,
that goal end?
when does it end? When is it enough? Or when do I feel I am enough
Yeah. And maybe
to
that's
just,
a better question.
and
When do
that's
you
a
feel
better
that you are enough?
enough, right? To just enjoy where you are in this journey,
Yeah.
wherever that may be. And I
And
really,
enjoy this journey.
yeah, enjoy the journey. We get so caught up in acquiring, um,
Yes.
that I think we lose that. You hit the nail. Even we're unable to communicate clearly because we're constant. We don't what am I going to communicate? How can I communicate it when I don't even know if I've arrived or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so awesome, good. So with that said, mental health. When we talk about the mental health of Black men, we talk about the mental health of the male energy. Um, we're seeing some things in our country and in the world at large.
Hmm.
How would you speak to that if you dare?
Yeah. I think I would dare. And I would say that, honestly, I feel what's going on the world over is a battle between, I think it's two ideologies, really. And it's an ideology of, can you create a cohesive society with unity and just, love, compassion, respect? Can you build a society built on just that? Or does society require control and more control and more control, right? And I think that's kind of the battle that we're seeing all across the world. In our own country, I feel like the predominant narrative that is being used right now is control. They are doing things that we don't like, therefore we will control it, right? And we're starting to see that the globe over, with people wanting more and more control, whether it's Putin trying to get more and more control over Ukraine and what he considers his territories, whether it is Israel trying to control Gaza and control the Palestinian people, to now we got Iran involved. And that strike that Israel did on Iran was out of control again, right? They targeted nuclear facilities specifically. So how I see this world over, and you could break this down into subdomains and on different continents in different ways, but how I see it, it seems to always be a side trying to control another side, with one side wanting to be free to do whatever they want to do, and another side wanting to control that freedom. And so I just think that this is a characteristic of, honestly, the universe. I think it comes in frequencies, and it's becoming, I would say, maybe closer together, but less violent. Because if you think about like world history, civilizations would just wipe out other civilizations at the drop of a hat, right? I mean, we have so many ancient cities that are in rubble right now for specific reasons. We even know how they got there. Like whether you want to go to Greece and look at, all of the torn down temples there, or you can go to Rome and see that too. You can go to Egypt and see that. Fallen civilizations. You can see the Great Wall of China, and that endeavor. You can go to pretty much every continent on the planet and see the remnants of this battle that has been fighting. But for most of human history, it's been completely violent. This is like the first time in human history where we can oppose without necessarily convening violence. And so I think that's a lot of the pushback right now, is that we are moving towards this state of nonviolence, but there are still some people that see violence as a way to control people. And those people are being a lot more, I would say, loud about that.
Interesting.
That makes sense. Did I lose you somewhere?
No, you did not lose me. I think it's very interesting. Audience, I want you to put in the chat what you think about what he said right now. And don't forget to subscribe and like, although we know this is a recorded conversation. I promise you he'll see your comments and I'm sure he'll reply. No.
Hey, I'll try.
um,
I'll try.
yeah, he'll definitely he'll try. So you feel like we're moving into a more non-violent. That's interesting.
Yeah. But, if you want to control people, then you're going to push back on that. And so I see this as part of the, what I'd say is just pattern, the human history pattern, that occurred in the 40s that is now reoccurring today. But again, it's becoming less and less. The violence is becoming less of a go-to because it's not like worldwide considered an appropriate measure of action anymore. Like you can't just blow people up because you want to, right? We have the International Criminal Court and other ways that we try to govern that with, the
But are
UN.
they?
And
But
things like
are
that.
they? But are they successful because they're doing it?
Oh, that doesn't mean they're successful. No, no. But
Okay.
it does mean that as a global society, we are making that trend. Like
Okay,
even
got it.
toward, climate change and things like that.
Mhm.
Like that is becoming less and less a battle for people to just see that
Yeah,
things are changing,
things are definitely changing. I got
right?
you.
And so
Yeah,
we are impacting our environment.
got it.
I mean, you
Got
can
it.
you can say that we don't, but if you see a bunch of plastic in the ocean, you cannot say that it's not impacting the environment,
Right.
right? We have impacted the environment. Now, to what degree, we can argue about that all day long. But humans' impact on the environment is significant. So, similar to that, I think we're starting to see all these things kind of coalesce into we don't want to fight, we want to protect the planet, we want to keep people safe, we want to build unity and compassion over hatred and violence. I
Mhm.
mean, would you agree with that?
Um, Absolutely, I would agree with that. I think that it's really important that I think that overall, we want nonviolence and we want love, we want harmony. Even if we disagree, we should be
Mhm.
able to disagree and not now condemn someone for not agreeing with how or what I think and or believe. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that I also think that the controlling powers that be do not want that to happen. And so that's why
Absolutely.
they are making the loudest of the noises right now. And I think when you look at both ends of the spectrum, I think we're in such a pivotal time in history right now, actually. I think that we have an opportunity as human beings, as humanity, as spiritual beings in a human experience to really see a shift and change. I think when you look at the last year, let's talk about the last year, the last 5 years, there's been so much change in our world that 10 years ago we couldn't have imagined, right? I
Oh,
mean, we didn't think. And so even as it become, as it pertains to global impact with the continent of Africa, when we talk about the global impact, as you mentioned, with Gaza and Israel, and I think that right here in the United States of America, I think that we are having major birthing pains,
yeah.
and it's uncomfortable because we can give birth to either more hate,
Hmm.
more love, more disgruntlement, or peace, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and so, yeah, I would say that. All righty. With that said, that was good. You flipped the question, and so I'm
I
gonna
like
throw in
to
a
hear
question.
perspective too.
Yeah. So with that said, I'm gonna ask you some questions, and I want you to tell me what you think. All right. Um,
Okay.
as a male, do you think you are the most misunderstood as a black male, the most misunderstood on the planet, or is it women?
Well, I would pitch this and say that I think on both sides we've been lied to so much that it is really difficult to see where the lie ends and where ourselves begin.
Love it.
And so I wouldn't say that anybody is more than anything than anybody else. That's not something that I would say. What I would say, and I don't know how this plays into everything, but I would say that historically women have been largely erased from history. Save a few like really powerful women. In most of ancient human history, there is nothing. There's nothing about them. And I don't know why that is, but I feel like it has to be purposeful. And so I feel like for women, especially, it can be difficult to find footing because while men have a lot more, or men have a lot more to look back on. And we can look all the way back to ancient Egypt, the pharaohs, we can look at the ancient Hindus and how they created different practices. But as far as for women and how, let's just say, what did women do for childbirth? Like most of that is erased. How did women govern other women in these societies? Outside of, maybe a few texts here and there, it's been erased. And so I think that has deeply impacted women and their ability to navigate this modern world in ways that I think men don't have. But I wouldn't say that there's any more or less of a confusion as far as how it relates to us, because I think that in losing women's history, that harms men too, because it doesn't give us any other understanding of those interactions before us and how women shaped who we are today. And so I think you miss out so much from that would nurture men. So I think it's, kind of a yin yang thing. One harms the other or one impacts the other, but you can't really disentangle those things because men and women have been entwined on this journey on this planet from the moment of creation.
Awesome. Love it. It's interesting you say that because I recently learned this year, I've been on a quest of understanding the dynamics of our relationship, our marriages, and etc. And why are they so difficult? Why is marriage so difficult outside of communication style, outside of, desires and all that kind of thing, and not being able to effectively communicate it? But it seems like there's an undercurrent, in my opinion, that is much deeper, right? So I learned in my research that specifically in Ghana, when I say queen, you may know the answer to this. When you say you see the king and queen, who is the queen sitting next to the king? Who is that person? Is it the wife? Is it the sister? Is it the mother?
Oh, yeah. That's a good question. I honestly don't know.
It's the mother. The queen is the mother. And she is the one, the lineage, the bloodline. I was in such shock when I learned this comes from the mother. It doesn't negate the male, the men, but the man in the culture understands, right, the power of the woman and her guiding and her wisdom. And so part of the lie, right, is that even when you think about it in religious aspects, and then I'm gonna hop off of this subject, but when you think of it in religious aspect, it's been so convoluted with that we are emotional beyond whatever. We don't think straight. We don't make good decisions. We're bad with this. Keep her quiet, shut her up, and on and on and on. And so I think that it caused me to pause, like, whoa, it is the mother. And the mother actually gave warning to the son, one of the sons, right, before becoming completely colonized by the outsiders, right? But the son didn't want to listen. And so because the son didn't want to listen, I'm paraphrasing the story. This is in Kamasi, didn't listen. She actually told him what was going to happen and actually moved him in a different position and moved another son in position. So at any rate, I found that very, 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 very interesting. If we really understood, and it's not that his wife is not a queen, but the mother, and she just recently, the mother of the most recent lineage, just was 100, I think, and 11 years old, and just passed in 2011. I thought that was incredible.
Wow.
Incredible. Yeah, I thought that was
That's
incredible. So, with that said, when I say fatherhood, you say what?
uh, yeah, fatherhood, I think, is a time of teaching. And honestly, I don't think it's just about teaching your kids. I think your kids teach you too. So, and I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier about kind of purpose, but kids teach you how to enjoy the world again, how to have fun doing the little things that you forgot because you've been an adult now for 10, 20 years and you've been working at a desk and you've forgotten how to have fun, how to roll around in the grass, how to, splash in a pool. They bring it back to that. So I would say fatherhood is a mixture of like teaching and just learning how to be joyous in the moment again.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell a young Dr. J?
What would I tell young Dr. J? I think gratitude. I think you will learn so much from life if you are grateful for your experiences, no matter whether you perceive them as good or bad, but just be grateful that you survived them, that you have a chance to talk about them, to learn from them, to grow from them, to become a different person, to act differently. I think so much of our lives, we feel like we are this thing, this unmoving thing. And I would just tell him that you can always move, you can always adapt, you can always change. And so if you don't like something, change it.
Tears, crying.
Do more of it. Do more of it, for sure.
Brotherhood.
I think connecting with men emotionally is so important. And I'll be honest with you, I have not done that my entire life. Maybe a little bit when I was in the military, like deployed. But outside of that, in the last year, I found a bunch of men who I can be emotional around and who show me their emotions. That's true brotherhood. When you can be vulnerable and not think of the vulnerability as a weakness or something that you have to exploit or make fun of.
Hate.
Hate kills you. I think hate is tension in your own body. So even harboring hate is harming yourself.
Spirituality.
Well, I don't know if I can speak to other people's experiences, but for myself, I would say that being more receptive to things that don't even make sense. Because I think in trying to make everything make sense, you force yourself into a pattern of thinking that discounts even a lot of your own experiences. And I would just say being more open and less judgmental will lead you to a lot of spiritual truths.
If you could say one thing to men, Black men, what would you say?
I feel like our journey has been similar in that a lot of things happened to Black men historically, where they were taken from their families, they were taken from their kids, or they were even sold, them and their kids. And for Black men in this country, I don't think enough appreciation of that experience and what that does to you physically, what that does to your genes, what that then does to your character and how that persists throughout time. I don't think we have appreciated that enough. And I would say to be aware of it, and to really start to love yourself through that understanding. Because I think for Black men, there's something that got lost in there where we feel that we have to push back against love and inclusion sometimes because of so many people that were ripped from your life, ancestors' lives. And I know this happened to women too, but I think it was different for men because they were most often taken away from their kids, from their families, sold into plantations or into like lumber mills or even just coal mines and things like that, that many of those people didn't come out of. I think it's just being conscious of that and finding a way to love yourself and understand yourself as a product of that environment.
And we breathe. And we breathe. That was incredible. That was incredible. It's June 19th. This will air on June 19th.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. What exactly? What would you? How would you speak it? And you're in Houston. How would you speak to June 19th?
I feel like that is something of a celebration, but also should serve as a reminder that there are people out there that will do whatever it takes to get every last drop of you, of your work, of your creativity, of your money, and do not care for you at all. And while as Black folks, we should celebrate this as a time of our emancipation, but we should also be aware that we're not in that dissimilar of an environment today where people want to exploit your labor. I mean, we're still being locked up at alarming rates. Like, it is still happening on a different level, but it is still happening. And so the fight is not over. There are still those that need emancipated.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That brought tears to my eyes. I've been thinking about the same things as we talk about Juneteenth, and making sure that we are just not getting in the mode of the commercialization of it, because it has been legalized, right? How can folks get in contact with you, Dr. J?
Yeah, they can get in contact with me on LinkedIn, Dr. J. Pearcey, Jei. Pearcey. You can just find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as well. I have a bunch of things that are about to come out too. I have a series that I'm doing for a content creation platform called Elixir, where I'm going to be discussing what it means to be human. And we're actually going to talk about ourselves as a multicellular organism and what that means for us and also what that means spiritually. So that will be awesome. And then obviously I'm launching my nonprofit, the National Sports Association for Wellness and Mental Fitness. That will be launching the 24th. And so hopefully then, we'll have some content and things for you as for athletes, for those parents that have athletes and they want to help their athletes. Maybe you don't understand exactly how sports can affect mental health or how mental health can affect performance. That is what we are trying to address. So you can find me in all those places. That's going to be nsawmf.org. You can also find me in drj.com. Yeah. So reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you again. This has been a very thought-provoking conversation. I think you have left something for the listeners to ponder, to think about, to have discussion with those that are in their world. And so I want to say thank you for taking the time out. We have a hard time getting the men folk to come out here. I think they're scared. What you think? I don't know. I don't know what they think we're going to do to them, but I am so glad that you came. I would like to, actually, there's some other topics coming up in the, we have down the pipe, so maybe we can look at having you come back again. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for taking time out. Thank you, listening audience. Make sure you subscribe, like, share. Subscribe, like, share. This is what gets in the algorithm. This is what get the word out, and we'll make sure that we have more information in the description where you can contact Dr. J. Thank you, and we will see you on the next go round. Peace and blessings. I want to say thank you guys for joining and tuning in tonight. I do hope in listening, I didn't pause it like I normally do when I do pre-recordings and ask if you had any feedback, any questions. And so there was a lot of rich conversation in there. And one thing you have to remember about conversation, about dialogue, is that you don't have to agree with everything, right? The intention is to get you in the thought process, the beginning stages, or to feed on the conversation and open your mind to possibility. That's the intention. So I do hope that thank you for tuning in. We have Pomona in the house, we got LA in the house. If you are on, just joining on, we just ended the conversation, please let me know where you are in from. This is what helps us get into the algorithm. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share. Look at some of our other content. We have our caregiver support. This was hosted by the Center of Empowerment. Center of Empowerment was the sponsor host for this conversation tonight. And so we want to say thank you. It's Men Mental Health. He gave us a lot of nuggets in there, even in understanding the men in our life. Share this with a man, with men, young men, seasoned men, and open up the conversation around their mental health. Mental health simply is, how are you handling and dealing with life? How are you not just coping, but how are you interacting? What is your stress levels? What do you do to minimize your stress level? If you're angry and don't know why you're angry, you're just angry and triggered at everything. You got to get to the root of it. He said that so eloquently tonight. So again, thank you for tuning in. If you like the programming, if you like what you hear, if you like the challenge of thinking, causing you to think, please consider donating to our platform at coinpm.org, coinpm.org. We have our donation page there. We're also on Venmo at Center of Empowerment. You can also Zelle us at info at empowerment, MEANT.org. Again, that's info, INFO, info at empowerment, INPower, MEANT.org. And of course, also, you'll see it at the bottom of the screen at Give Fee at Center of Empowerment. And our logo, our official logo will be there. You will see it there. So again, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. And we hope to see you again on our next broadcast at the end of the month. We will be discussing what is a grief doula? What is a death doula? What is that? The thing we don't like to, that's another area we don't often like to talk about. And then we will be capping off the season with a sit-down interview with Miss Deborah Donaldson. She's going to come in and is going to talk about the multi-layers of caregiving, grief, divorce, and pursuing and being a businesswoman, and how it all, the path, the journey, and unpacking and living through that as more than just a survivor, but learning how to live through it. All righty. Any comments you want to put in the chat? Anything you want to share with us tonight? Anything you want to ask? Anything that is on your mind? Again, we thank you. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to like. And we'll see you the next time. Let me partner with you as you walk through this next chapter of your life. Let us unpack the blocks, the blind spots together and get to the next level, your divine purpose in this season. Let's help you shed the weight that distracts from you living in fulfillment. Meet me in my healing space. Confirm with me today. Also, we have Miss Val. She is a profound producer, and she is doing a documentary on human experience, seeking real stories of family secrets. If you have experienced any type of abuse in your family, from a child, from middle age, and it, you know how what goes on in this house stays in this house, please reach out to me and I'll give you her information. And you see it at the bottom of the screen as well. She has an impressive, a powerful dossier. It's MIVUE Productions 1120 at gmail.com. And make sure you tell her that you heard about this project on Iris Inspires TV. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.